So everybody, this is the amazing and phenomenal Tammi Mac, award-winning writer, producer, actress, and the sister and queen of all things media. How are you doing? How's your day going so far?
My day is going amazing. I am about to hit the red carpet for the Bounce Trumpet Awards. So
Nice.
I'll be on the red carpet hosting for the Trumpet Awards. So
Okay.
I'm excited.
So you got a busy day.
Yeah, I do have a busy day.
Well,
but I got time for you now, Court. I got time for you, baby.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it. We're going to just get right into it. So, in my mind, I kept saying to myself, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be all of these things under the sun. But then I read Tammi Mac's story, and Tammi Mac knew from the beginning that this is what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
Man. So how was it growing up in Missouri, knowing that you had this big gift in this town? Were you supported? How was that life growing up for you?
Well, I don't know. Somewhere online, someone has that I'm from Missouri, but most of what's online is about me is false. I'm from Houston, Texas.
No way.
So I don't know where the Missouri myth came from. I don't know where the myth of my age came from. And I don't know where the myth of my $41 million gross income came from.
I didn't get that far in the reading, but I did see.
But I will take that $41 million income any day.
Ching, 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 ching.
Right?
So how was it growing up in Houston? I am so sorry.
No, it's all good. Houston was amazing. And you asked, was I supported? I have always been supported my entire life. And I know that there are people who don't know what that looks like or how that feels. I can't speak to that because there's been no one in my world that has ever doubted me, that has ever deterred me from excelling. As a matter of fact, when I moved to Los Angeles, my aunt and uncle were like, we were wondering what took you so long. And then my mother when I moved to Birmingham, I did the morning show with Ricky Smiley in Birmingham, Alabama. And my mother was like, Birmingham? What's she doing in Birmingham? She's supposed to be in LA. But my mom never told me she felt that way until I got to LA. So I didn't know that, you know. But yeah, growing up in Houston, graduated from Jack Yates High School, which the high school supported me 100%. A former student of Jack Yates High School ended up being the president of Bennett College and came back and gave me a 4-year full scholarship, academic scholarship. So Houston was amazing to live in. I worked at a radio station housed at Texas Southern University called KTSU. So that's where my whole radio career started. My father took me there to get the job. I got it. My father used to take me to auditions in Houston. And my mother would drive me back and forth to the radio station every weekend to make sure that my dream was honed and that the craft was honed and that my dream was fulfilled. And I have to say, her sacrifice paid off.
Right. Now we talk about consistency, and I love in hearing what you say. A lot of it has to do with consistency, right? To be where you are right now takes that type of work. You were talking about being in TSU and going to college. I know for myself, even I switched my major like 5 times, right? 1 minute I wanted to be a social worker. Next minute I wanted to be an educator. It was just like a lot.
From a firefighter to an attorney to a social worker to an educator. Yeah, I hear you.
Wasn't going to tell me it was going to be in my resume. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I finally settled in communication and journalism. But for you, kind of going into college, were you still sure that this was what you wanted, or were you in that stage where I don't know, I could go either way? You know what I mean? When we get to that age, we're always at that crossroad. Were you certain at that point? Like, when was it for you when you knew that media, entertainment, hosting was something you wanted to do?
I've never had a crossroads. I've always wanted to do it. I've always done it. And the thing about doing it, this is what I like, Courtney. The thing about doing it is that people assume that doing it means that you're Oprah Winfrey
Right.
or Wendy Williams. I went to a seminar. I think Steven Spielberg, if I'm not mistaken, was speaking. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, if you want to be a director, direct.
Mm.
And people don't take that serious. If you want to do something, it really is as simple as doing it.
Yeah.
Now, your expectations that come from the doing it is really what stops people and prevents people from doing things, because you'll want to be a television host and you'll host your own podcast, but after 6 months, if you don't have 1 million viewers, you stop.
Right.
It's the expectation that you have and you place on yourself that prevents you from moving forward and from moving on. I have been hosting since I came out of my mama's stomach. I came out of my mama's stomach
With
going,
the mic.
ladies and gentlemen. So it's always been something innate in me. I'm a very shy person personally,
Yeah.
but once I hit the stage and I'm hosting, it's another world for me. It always has been. Every year at Christmas, my great grandfather would make everybody sit down and watch the Tammy Show.
Mm.
And so and that started when I was about 5, 6 years old, and it went all the way through college. He made everybody sit down and watch the Tammy Show until the day he died, literally. So no, I've never had thoughts of doing something else. I think when I was in college, I was like, if I'm not acting or on the radio
Yeah.
or if I'm not acting by the time I'm 40, that's what I said. If I'm not acting by the time I'm 40, I'm going into the military. And I said 40 because at a certain point, I think you're not allowed to enlist in the military at a certain age. So I was like, if I'm not doing what I want to do by the time I'm 40, I'm going into the military. I'm going to be a Marine. So that was the one time that I thought about doing something else. But I've always been able, even when I was in college, my first year at Bennett, I was on the radio. So I've never not been on the radio since the age of 14.
Wow.
There was that one year I got fired in Birmingham, but
I
that set me back 2 years. But that also was the moment that I was like, you know what? I'm moving to LA. I ain't got nothing else to do. So
right. So you get to LA, and fast forward, you start your show, the Tammi Mac Show. Now, for me, when I do these shows, I love to be able to give people their flowers. I love to be able to allow people the opportunity to have a platform. But when people ask me, what do I get from it? It's always, for me, I get emotional, right? Because the story to get here has been hard. It's not easy. So for you, what do you get? What aspect do you take in when you are hosting events and when you are doing both your show on Fox Soul and your radio show?
Well, all of the shows for me, including when I host events, my whole life, I felt like I would consider myself an empathizer. And what I've found out as I've grown older is that empathizing is something that helps you to release judgment on people. And so whenever I'm hosting anything, radio show, television show, event, I try to find a moment where people can be non-judgmental.
Right.
If that makes sense. I try to bring in information that will allow you to look at something from a different perspective. And it's not that you have to believe what I believe or believe what somebody else believe. It's just take a moment, take a small window to look at something from a different perspective,
Right.
so that you won't judge someone about it, about the position that they're in. Whether that be homelessness, prostitution, a drug dealer, whether it be Instagram thought, as they call them, whether it be a wealthy person who just has no concept of what it looks like to live in the real world. I think we should all take a window of perspective to see that other person's side and be able to release judgment, because in the end, only one person judges us.
Come on. Come on.
So
And
that's what I try to bring to my show. Uh, the business of being Black with Tammi Mac on Fox Soul, and the Tammi Mac Show on KJLH, and any event that I host. And
yeah.
I usually play characters that are layered with things um, that allow people to have perspective on that situation. So right now I'm on a television show called Partners in Rhyme, that's recurring. My role is a recurring role,
Yeah.
but I play MC Light's sister. But I was addicted to drugs, and I've come back to get my daughter from her. And so it sounds like it's a drama, but it's really a sitcom. But I do bring the drama to the
Right.
sitcom, you
Right.
know. And so for Bentley Kyle Evans to be able to give me that role, for MC Light to be able to give me that role that can show people a different perspective of what it's like to not have your child, of what it's like to be on drugs, of what it's like to go back and get your child from your sister, who you also love but don't love, because you know there's this seed of jealousy that's there.
Right.
It's a character that's layered with all these complicated emotions and situations. And so those are the types of characters that I enjoy playing,
Right.
because it gives
They tell
perspective.
stories.
They tell stories, but they also allow you to look at a person's situation non-judgmental and from their perspective, because we
Yeah.
always pointing the finger, man.
Yeah.
But we really don't sink into empathizing with what a person is going through.
Yeah, and that is so true, especially I think now more than ever, dealing with a big global pandemic. And it's kind of like, you know, going through this, and even now, right? Like even though people are saying, oh, we're getting back to this sense of normalcy, but there's such a big divide in that and what people believe it should be, right? And this is what I love about your show, is that you, like you were saying before, you're non-judgmental. When I saw your last episode about sex workers being should they be legalized or not, I'm like, in my mind I was saying they kind of are, right? Like they have things now like OnlyFans and porn, you know what I mean, and Pornhub, where these things are free. You know, most of them are now free. So in reality, are they already being legalized? You know what I mean? But I love that you dive in. So for you, I know the business of being Black is like educational but fun. So what part of you do you take when you do each of these things? So I know you are an actress. You also have a radio show, and you have this late night talk show. So you are like three different people. You got to be different people in different atmospheres. So what parts of you do you bring in each one?
Well, I think we're all different people, right? We're all a different person at different points of our lives, at different times of the day. We all have different sides to us.
Yeah.
And what God has blessed me with, Courtney, is that I get to live out all of those sides in a real way. It's really a blessing that I have not been put in a box. I am able to be an actress without people saying, oh, she do radio, she can't act. I'm able to do radio without them saying, oh, you know, she does radio. She can't be on TV too. They do different things, you know? So God has put me, like the gifts that he's given me, I mean, you know, they've made room for everything that I have, and that's biblical. So the parts I bring to me, the other thing that I've been blessed with is that the parts I bring to me, for each of them, is every single side of me. And it's so dope. It's so dope to be able to go on the radio, and if I want to act, I can act on the radio. You know, if I mean, it really, like literally, if I'm mad, I get to be mad that day. And if I'm happy, I get to be happy. If I'm, you know, if I feel like the day has been challenged, I get to bring that. And I get to bring that to my television show also. I have been pitching my own television show for quite some time. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a break, stop pitching, and just be still.
Right.
And that came from one of my girlfriends. We were having lunch. One of my best friends, Mashari, and I, we were having lunch, and I'm like, I've done everything. I've sent out package after package. I've had pitch meetings after pitch meetings. I've had, I was trying to talk about myself and tell the people who I am. And the one woman said to me, yeah, we know you're great, you're fabulous, you're wonderful, whatever.
What?
Like, oh my God, okay. I guess she's not interested.
Right. Right.
But yeah, my girlfriend said, you keep saying you've tried everything, but I bet there's one thing you haven't tried. I said, I can't think of it because I have done everything. She said, have you ever tried to just be still? And I was like, that don't even make sense.
Right. Right.
How can I win and be still at the same time? How can I be successful and be still at the same time? She was like, you've done everything. You've done the work. You said so yourself. You've put yourself out there. You've had these meetings. You've put together packages. You've done the work. But have you had the chance to be still? And I said, ooh, that's going to be a hard one for me, sis. I don't know. She said, challenge yourself. Challenge yourself. So that particular year, I challenged myself to not reach out to anybody, to not emails, to not follow up, and just to let things come to me.
Right.
After the first month I did that, Courtney, I booked a recurring role on Lee Daniels' Star.
Wow.
I was like,
wow.
Oh my God.
Well,
and then right after that, I was called by, I had a phone call from Fox Television saying, we're interested in you doing a talk show. And I was so jaded by the experiences of the past trying to pitch my talk show that I really didn't even give a woo-ha about Fox calling me because I had been so disappointed and so bitter,
that it felt too good to be true.
Yeah, from everything that had happened. But I did take notice that it was the moment in my stillness that the phone call came.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I said, I'm going to continue to be still, even in the process of them asking about the show. I'm not going to answer the question because, the me before the be still would have been like, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, wonderful. You know what I mean? Give it to me. What you got? I sat down. I thought about it. I asked them, let me think about it. My husband took me on vacation for a week. I have never in my life been on a 1-week vacation ever in my life. Ever. I usually take a day here, day there, 2 days. I'm working all the time. My husband took me on a week vacation. I didn't think about it. I jotted down some ideas and some questions that I wanted to ask. And in the end, it was the stillness that won. It was the stillness that propelled me. And a lot of times we don't believe that God can do his own work. And so we decide we're going to do it for him. And we decide how quickly something is going to happen or whether it hasn't happened quick enough. And I think in this moment, this was the moment that I saw God moving without my assistance because I needed it.
It was God like, how much do you trust me? Right? I know you love me, but how much do you trust me in this thing?
Yeah, I want to say it was very hard to be still. It was very hard. It was hard to say no to people who called and asked me to do things because I took it literal. When my girlfriend said be still, I took it literal. I turned down gigs. I turned down just interviews. Like literally, I wanted to be in the stillness to see what it really felt like, and it was very hard for me. Very hard.
Yeah, and that's the challenging part as creatives, right? Because we want to move and we want to go, and in the long term of things, we are blocking our own blessings. I was telling James Boy this the other day. Many times we're banging on these doors, right? Banging on the door. One door is not opening for us, and in the process, God is saying, "I told you to prepare and be still in front of that door because I have the key."
Yeah,
you forget that I have the key, not you. I have the key. You know what I mean? A lot of times you don't realize that,
Yeah. And I think you know, Fox Soul was the best thing to happen to me in terms of having a talk show, you know,
Yeah.
because they gave me free reign to be myself, to make it what I wanted to make it. And even when it wasn't working, they sat down with me and said, "Hey, it's not working. Let's adjust." You know, they didn't just say it's not working, girl, bye. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They were like,
Right.
let's adjust and see if we can go this route. And
Mm.
even during the pandemic, when I probably shouldn't have had a job, it was the worst time of my show. My show was horrible during the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
they were like, let's sit down and work this out. And we worked it out. Like, to be able to have someone who believes in you in a way that will say, let's keep working at it. Let's keep chipping
Yeah.
away at what's wrong and mold what's right about
Mm.
it so that you can win. And that's really where I come from. Your first question was, you know, did I have support back home?
Yeah.
And that support has followed me through my entire career. When we talk about KJLH and Stevie Wonder, who owns KJLH, has
Mm-hmm.
been very supportive of my acting career. He's come to my plays on several occasions. He's come to my one woman show 2-3 times and brought people back.
Right.
You know, he has always championed me. It was him who said, "Hey, I want you in the afternoons," and allowed a woman to
Mm.
completely control the creativity of her own afternoon radio show without having a sidekick,
Mm.
without being the sidekick to some man, you
Right.
know. And so that support that my family has given me has followed me through my entire career, and it's held me steady, because there have been times when I wanted to walk away from things,
Yeah.
and you know, and that support system would be like, no, let's look at it again. Let's
Mm-hmm.
try something different. And so I've been very blessed in the move to Los Angeles after being fired from Birmingham.
So, you know, you said something about, like, you know, not being a sidekick to a man, and it brings me to my next point. You know, you're doing late night TV, and normally late night TV is dominated by men, white men to be specific. And to be able to see you in this space, how does it feel to know that, you know, you are in this space, you are able to be seen, but more importantly, you're able to be heard and listened to in a time, like I said before, where it is normally dominated by our whiter counterparts?
How does it feel? Is that the
Yeah.
question? How does it feel?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm proud of myself. I'm very proud of myself for not giving up in those moments that, and there have been several where I wanted to walk away and give up. And so I'm proud to be able to stick in there, but I'm
Yeah.
also proud that that there's a space for us Black girls now. You
Mm.
know, I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I'm proud of America
Yeah.
uh, creating that space, even though we've had to force America to create it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of Black women at this very moment because we are reigning in
Yep.
everything, in everything. I mean, we just had a Supreme Court justice uh, placed in the first African American woman to
Mm-hmm.
become Supreme Court justice. So I think that, yeah, that's the only word I have is
Yeah.
is the pride in my country when I see it happen, and the pride in myself to not have given up.
Come on. Come on. I wanted to bring this up. Now, you mentioned in the article that I was reading that when you talked about wanting to educate in a fun way, you never realized you would also be the one who was being educated. For me, it's giving really the teacher being the student type vibe. So for you, what did you mean by that? And what lessons did you actually learn?
Well, I've always been supportive of the LGBTQIA community,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I never really knew. Um, there was so much that I didn't know
Yeah.
that I felt like I should have known, but you can't beat yourself up about it, because if that's not your world, if that's not who you are, of course there are things you don't know
You don't
about it.
know, right?
And so my shows with an S have allowed me to to bring that part of America, to bring that community into onto my platform, to be able to share with the world what it means to be transgendered, or what it means to be gay, or what it means to be pansexual or bisexual. And in that, because I think we're at a space where it's opening up for the community, but people still don't understand. And we're coming, and I'm going back to what I talked about in the beginning, which is being non-judgmental.
Right.
It's hard to understand if you're turning your nose up at it, if you're looking at it in a disgusting kind of way, if you're looking at it because you've never had the experience and that's never been your space. It's hard to be non-judgmental. And so that's where my platform comes in. And I think with that, allowing that community to come onto my platform and express themselves and talk about what it means and what it really is, I've learned a lot myself in order to be more loving and more giving and less judgmental about the community as a whole. Also about people who are fathers in the child support system. It's taught me that America has lied about Black men and about how they care for their children. And because you'll sit around and maybe you're in that experience and you feel like, well, because your man don't pay child support, no man pays child support. But then doing that show on child support allowed me to find out that statistically, based on statistics from the CDC, Black men take care of their children more than any other ethnicity. And that is a fact. It's not just something that's thrown up in the sky. It's a fact provided by the CDC. But no one wants to talk about that. You just want to talk about how deadbeat dads are in the African American community. So it's things like that that I begin to grow and I begin to learn too. But I'm a fun kind of gal, you know what I'm saying? So in order to grab my attention, you gotta put some chocolate on it so I can eat it.
Come on.
And so I try to do that for my show. I try to sprinkle a little chocolate on it, a little butter for some taste, so that people can digest what's being said. But at the same time you're digesting, you're learning. I've learned a lot about the African community, not the African American community, the African community. I've learned a lot about that community. So I think that in teaching other people, I've learned too.
Yeah. So in doing your show, are there any topics that you haven't touched on that you look forward to touching on as your show grows and progresses?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think I can touch on? That's a great question.
So I know you spoke about something and it was a great one. And it will bring me to my point that I just did one. I think you should do one on polygamy, because I think that that's a big conversation.
I've done 2 shows on polygamy, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh man, I figured you would, because that's a big conversation amongst us as African Americans. I just had one on my show last week. You touched on biracial. Is biracial Black? And it hit home for me because my dad was white and my mom was Black. God rest their soul. But I'm darker, right? So you couldn't look at me and say, "Oh, he's mixed," right? Has, but my brother is your complexion, a little shade lighter, and like we even talked about the conversation of my father's side accepting him before they even accepted me because of the color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I think about conversations, I think like going in depth like that. I love that you have panel, you got people on your show come on and they can elaborate with you. Do you ever think about having like going out and moving your show like out instead of doing it virtually, like actually going outside of your the virtual realm and doing it in person?
Well, we that's how the show started. We were in our studios and then the pandemic hit and we had to come out of the studios, obviously.
Mm,
And I believe Fox may have thought that the virtual was better because we have access to more people.
yeah,
When we're in the studio, we only have access to who's in Los Angeles.
yeah.
But if we're virtual, we get access to people all over the world. And so that was kind of the thought behind it. Will we ever go back to the studio? I've got in my head that
Mm,
I will be hosting a nighttime television show, Arsenio Hall-esque,
yes,
in the
yes.
studio with a full-on audience. So
Mm.
that's the gift from God I'm waiting for, in addition to a series regular on a television show.
You gotta come on with the specificity. I love the specific blessings. Like, I don't just want a talk show guy, but I need it to be this talk show guy. Like, come on. So Foxhole has teamed up with HBCU Buzz for $5,000 in funding. So we thank you for being a part of that. How did that even come about? And how can people start being more involved in Black colleges, Black universities?
Well, the first thing you can do is learn about them. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of us. I graduated from Bennett, which is a historically Black college. Most people think that Spelman is the sister school to Morehouse. It's actually Bennett College that is the sister school to Morehouse. Spelman was
I would
not
have never known that.
Yeah. You'll only know if you graduated from Bennett or Morehouse. But
Mhm.
women from Spelman know because, they tease us about it. They say
Yeah.
that's the only thing we have to hang our hat on. But nobody knows that. So I think the first thing to do is to learn about the colleges, learn how many there are, learn what colleges they are. And that's how you can be more involved. And also look at the one, because, there are the top tier historically Black colleges, just like there are top tier predominantly white colleges. There
Yeah.
are, quote, top tier Black colleges as well.
Mm.
I challenge people to find out about historically Black colleges that are not Howard, that are not Hampton, that are not FAMU, that are not Spelman, that are not Morehouse. Who do you know outside of those top colleges
Right.
that exist? Because they need money too.
Come
And
on.
they also need enrollment too. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to help them all to survive.
Yeah.
And that's part of what Fox Soul is doing in terms of their HBCU campaign.
Man, Tammi, I love you. I gotta tell you, this is like anytime I do a interview, I always wanted to feel like I'm having a conversation with a friend. So I thank you for coming on here and being our friend. You know what I mean?
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road. And we start from the bottom. Now we're here, y'all.
So what do you have coming up next that we can support and be a part of?
Well, I already talked about Partners in Rhyme, where I play MC Light's sister, and you can catch me on Bounce or Dish Nation hosting the Trumpet Awards, not the Trump Awards, the Trumpet Awards.
They would have been like, I'm sorry, Trump, what are you?
Right, the Trumpet Awards. Which is an award show dedicated to Black excellence. So I'm excited to meet and see people. Do you have a good question I can ask people on the red carpet? I'm looking like for fun questions to ask. You have a fun question I can ask?
I'll inbox you.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm excited about that, and I'm also excited about being at the top of the red carpet because Black folk usually don't get the top of the red carpet.
Come on.
So we'll see what happens, and I'm looking forward to to doing that. And I produced, directed, and wrote a horror film.
Oh wow!
I shot last year. We're in post now for that, so hopefully, fingers crossed that you'll be able to see that on a huge platform, maybe Netflix, Amazon, like that. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh man! Well, we definitely love all that you are. Who you are and who you continue to be. Thank you once again for your time. You are now part of the Courtney's Corner family.
Courtney's Corner family, one-on-one with Courtney. Thank you, Courtney's Thoughts.
Thank you for being here. Everybody, this is now my friend and my sister, Miss Tammi Mac. Please make sure you follow her and support everything that she has going on. We love you. And we'll see
I'm
you
at The
time.
Tammi Mac Show on social media, at The Tammi Mac Show. Tammi with an I and no K. The Tammi
And we
Mac.
will list that in the comments, post edit. I love you all for watching. Thank you so much. I see you guys. Wave at the people, Tammi. They're waving
Thank
at
you, Courtney.
Mwah, love you.
Thank you for thinking this of me. Thank you.
You're welcome.